Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Just checking that you're on by maybe popping something in the chat box to say hi so that I know you're here and we're ready to roll. Welcome, ladies. Always brings a big joy to my heart to have you on the other end, truly. All right, so let's get straight into it. And at the end of it, we'll join on Skype to have a further conversation. So this webinar is about body connection and how the body is actually the gateway for us to connect to heightened states of pleasure and power, as well as freedom in our bodies. Now, when I originally was thinking about this topic, I was like, why am I even talking about it? The body connection sounds so bloody boring. But then I realized it's actually the body that is the magic and the mystery of being human. And if we're not in connection to it, the mystery and magic of being alive, the joy, the wonder is actually severed somehow. So when I retermed it that way, I thought, yeah, there's something really profound to share here with the people that are ready to listen to it. As you know, my sort of background is one of pain and trauma, torment, and really there was no magic in my life. I was not connected to my body. I was putrefying it with drugs and alcohol. I was fully anxious, so it wasn't a very pleasant place to really sit inside my body. In conjunction with that, my sexual libido was very low. I actually didn't enjoy it at all, and I felt like it was a have to, not a I want to. I want to feel myself flower and open to greater heightened states of pleasure. I also didn't have connection to my body. I didn't even feel my feet on the ground. I wasn't aware of my legs. So in some essence, I was disconnected from the roots of my power. So my intention today really, as I share this webinar, is about inviting you to learn the connection about your body, what is actually going on inside, how to expand that potential. Like, what is it? What's the key to people walking around with great states of bliss, feeling connection, feeling joyous, feeling a great compassion pouring from their hearts? What is it about these people that allow them to really move through the world like they're alive? Just to get started, I really want to invite us all to arrive in the space, including myself. So if you all wouldn't mind just gently closing your eyes and just tuning your energy inwards for a second. But just feeling where you're sitting and noticing that connection to the couch, the floor, the bed. And noticing if it's warm, soft, hard, cold, inviting, tingly. And just allowing yourself to notice and become aware as you feel that connection. What else starts to happen in the body? For me, I noticed my breath started to change into a deeper state. Notice my muscles started to relax more. I started to really feel anchored and connected to the chair. Maybe noticing your feet in connection to the floor. Just tuning into the parts of you that may be feeling some tension or stress from the day. Then gently drawing your awareness to the parts of you that feel more relaxed, a little bit more released, letting go, loose. And then just gently opening your eyes back into the space. So, it really is your body that's on this journey called life. It's not your spirit, it's not your soul, it's your body. And it's actually your body through the felt sense that is actually the fruits of the gift of life, where you get to feel the most aliveness, that the sensory experience is actually the gift of our physical form. And it's when we start to tune into the felt sense that we start to expand something that I term the container of expansion, which I'll get into greater detail. But when we're able to be present, it's these that allow these greater opportunities and experiences in life to come in, and again, it will create even bigger expansion in through life. The key really is how do we navigate that? How do we navigate the felt sense in our inner world without disassociating, avoiding, dismissing ourselves, or overriding our naturalness? And this comes in forms of shame, drugs and alcohol use, uh, dismissing ourselves through conversation, not allowing ourselves to feel the full pleasure and delight of who we are. So, as I mentioned in the previous webinar, that it is actually the body that holds the key. Now, as you will see with that beautiful iceberg picture, is the tip of the iceberg is what is generally what we see on the surface. And if we're only allowing ourselves to see that and the world to see that, then the 3/4 that sits under the water isn't connected to. So it's almost like the subconscious, unconscious that's playing out. And yet we only see that tip. What we really want to start to connect into to feel our power and pleasure is all that sitting underneath the surface. Now, someone who is really grounded and connected with their body will be able to see through your mask. Very transparent. I don't know if you've ever sat with what I would term a very enlightened person. I've sat across from a few. One being a woman, Indigenous woman out in country, and I stood before her, and when I made eye contact with her, she saw straight through all my layers of masks and identities that I created. And it made me shake to the core because I was like, I feel so naked and exposed. So that's really what it's about, is about us witnessing ourselves and turning inwards and exploring that body language that's communicating to us to be seen, to be felt, to be heard, to be validated and acknowledged, no matter how comfortable or uncomfortable it is. And when I say that, the uncomfort and comfort shouldn't be termed as bad or good, but just more being present to the experience. The more we're present to it, the more it will start to transform. The number one key is, I don't know if you all know Osho, who is a very mystical, spiritual teacher. His quote here says, the first thing Tantra teaches you is to be loving towards your body. Befriend your body, revere your body, respect your body, take care of your body. It is a gift of existence. Treat it well and it will reveal great mysteries to you. So a part of like ascension and enlightenment is the image of us turning up and outwards out of our body. But in actual fact, the paradox is the only way to get up and out of the body into formlessness is to go into our form and feel everything and ground and anchor to every experience to reach that sense of formlessness in our body. It also means, how can I personally take responsibility for how I'm relating to my body? How can I take responsibility for how I'm eating, how I'm speaking, how I allow myself to be around people that may not be nurturing and kind to myself? These sorts of things around how can I connect with my physical form? Am I doing exercise? Am I moving my body so that the oxygen can pour through my body and shift and move all that unhealthy toxins? Am I drinking enough water? These sorts of things are really going to help you to tune in and be present to your body. Because I know when we're not feeling so good inside, we sort of want to dampen it, or we meet that not so good feeling with a not so good action. Say if you're having a bad day and you're stuck in some stress or some grief and you're really loathing yourself, or blaming yourself for something. I know how easy it is to reach for the chocolate bar and the alcohol to sort of soothe that. But in actual fact, what's happening is you're meeting the energy and then you're trying to decrease it even more through the numbing, rather than choosing something healthy that's going to be loving towards your body, like a walk or a juicy glass of water with some fresh lemon. Something to help to stabilize and keep your energy moving. Now, this is really the essence of when you become the magical alchemist. Now, I don't know if you know what an alchemist is, but it's changing one substance into another. So you have the power inside your body to transform the not so good into such a wonderful, pleasurable experience. It's just like Yeshua, or Jesus, as he's commonly known, as when he changed water into wine. We actually have that power stored inside our body. And I am living proof of that as I move through my day, pretty much containing a stress-free reality while attaining to a high workload, high demand. It's me changing that stress from a place of calm, relaxed, grounded, energized sense of self. That is the alchemy that is possible inside our body. And this beautiful quote that I absolutely adore. And I said to my body softly, I want to be your friend. It took a long breath and replied, I've been waiting my whole life for this. So as this beautiful picture describes is, if we're not watering and nurturing consistently ourselves, our body, and learning how to respect it to a greater level and taking right action, we're not going to grow from that little flower that you see in the PowerPoint. And I'm here to say I'm not perfect. I'm still watering myself like a flower and learning how to grow and embody my full gift of this human form, being female. But it means taking action steps of slowly learning, what can I do today? Just one thing to help eradicate those rotten beliefs that I picked up, or those rules and behaviors that don't serve me, or how can I just let go of that person that doesn't really nurture my inner soul? Can I take that 20 minutes of exercise to get the oxygen and the blood flowing and to clear some of that toxicity? Can I meditate to calm my mind and allow me to come home into my body? These sorts of things is the body is just waiting for you to calm that mind, to call your fragments of your soul back home, to come back in and integrate so that you feel more comfortable and ease in your naturalness. And the way to do this is the number one thing in your body is safety, meaning how can I turn inwards and allow me to be the safest person I need in the world so that I can validate my body experience. I can acknowledge it, I can love it, I can approve of it, and I can also accept it. These are the things that we sort of search on the outside. And sometimes we need it on the outside to learn how to do it ourselves. Example is the sense of safety. If we've never had that tangible, real felt sense of safety by a competent caretaker, we need to learn how to have that with ourselves, possibly through another person who is skilled in that. My journey is I didn't know safety or security. So I had invested a lot of money in very specialized people to hold a really powerful, safe space for me where they wouldn't be reactive, they wouldn't be emotionally invested, and I could just splurge all my junk out at them, and then they could hold that while I could navigate my way through those inner sensations and experience to come back to a centered, calm, integrated form of myself, really. And also, the body is not bound by time. So when we feel reactive to something in our reality, such as a person or something not functioning like the computer and the IT, that reaction generally isn't something that's happening real time, because that sort of overreaction signals like a protective defensive mechanism that I could possibly guarantee is coming from a past experience playing out in the now. So again, the body doesn't know time. Whatever happened in the past from childhood where we didn't feel safe is playing out in the now, like real time, and coming up against the edges of you. Like the reaction is hitting the edge of you to say, hey, hello, can you notice me? Can you turn your energy inwards and give me that loving acceptance, approval, presence, consistent, reliable presence that it's allowing to integrate? And when you can offer that to yourself, then space starts to open up and you feel a greater sense of safety and trust in your own sense of self. Okay, now this had a video to it which I didn't prepare. You don't. Let me just find it, ladies and gentlemen. One second. Not actually sure you'll be able to see it even on this slide, so I might just skip that and play it for you later. Okay, so your body's capacity for building its tolerance. So down there behind my head is the word presence and heightened states of pleasure. And really what that is about is through your presence, your loving, compassionate presence to yourself is the gateway in to increasing heightened states of pleasure, power, and freedom. So this means how long can you hold yourself whilst moving through the discomfort without disassociating, avoiding, dismissing, all those sorts of things. So what happens is this takes happens over time. Like it's not going to happen overnight. To get where I'm sitting right now, it has taken 6 intensive committed years, and I'm still growing and learning how to expand my capacity to feel and be present to the moment. I'm not perfect, but what I can offer is my experience, what I've noticed and also witnessed in a lot of clients that I work with. And that is that when people come to see me generally, their ability to hold a certain amount of sensation is quite small, like that first like semicircle. And that is about as much as they're able to tolerate if they're not exposed to holding their own felt sense or being aware of sensation in the body, especially with significant trauma like physical and sexual assault or emotional neglect. This is where the person's going to be sitting at. The way to expand that is to feel the sensations that is arising within you and be able to ground it through the body. So rather than going up and out of the body, which we like to do when it's uncomfortable, is how can I still ground in my body and hold that with a loving, compassionate presence? And when I'm grounded in the present moment, I'm allowing that stuck energy to start moving, having some flow and shifting inside my body so that then it becomes settled again. When we allow that state to happen where it settles, then our body organically opens up because there's a sense of space. The stuck energy that was built up in our system is now released, and there's now a newfound form of space. When there's a new amount of space, then eventually what our experience that we just moved through becomes integrated and the new normal or the new natural. And then our body is going to open up again to another experience, another dysregulated or incomplete experience. And the key again when that arises is how can I ground and hold that as a safe container with a very loving and compassionate presence, no matter how ugly or how much I want to push it away, like a frightened inner child, how can I actually embrace it in my arms and say, I've got you, I love you, and I'm here, and it can take as long as it needs, and I'm going to be just right here with you. The more you do that, then you're going to start jumping into that third circle, which is like, I'm able to hold any experience that's moving through my body, whether pleasure, whether pain, whatever you term it. You're just going to be open and allow it to flow through your body. What's also important is not to avoid the pain or the pleasure. An example is childbirth. It's a really common belief system in our society where childbirth is supposed to be painful. Now, that in fact is not correct in my belief, and I challenge it to say that it actually can be quite an orgastic experience if you can stay present and aware to the sensation that is coming from your body. And it actually can be one of the most profoundly spiritual experiences and connecting you to the divine source of creation if you open and surrender and allow, while staying present, to move through your body rather than contracting and pushing down and avoiding and blaming yourself for the pain. This also can happen in sexual intimacy. I know in my experience, I used to contract and try and orgasm through a very fine funnel. And that really reduces my ability to open and surrender and allow the orgastic energy to flow through me. One of the key things for a woman to do when she feels threatened when she's having sexual intimacy, and there can be numerous reasons for that, is to acknowledge it rather than dismiss it and avoid it and continue through the sexual intercourse, is to pause, communicate to your partner, or even through your self-pleasure practice, to communicate to yourself and say, I'm feeling really tight, really contracted right now, and I'm just going to allow it and breathe through it. Feeling the floor, feeling the bed, feeling my partner, pausing until that settles in your system, and then recontinue with the action further. Okay, so in shamanic terms, is when the soul fragments, it becomes lost in a state of spiritual limbo or suspension, where the soul's not in the body, it's actually fragmented out there in the universe, the galaxy, floating around, waiting for us to feel safe so it can come home back into our body vessel. And there's this beautiful quote from one of my teachers: come back to your country, come back to your people, come back to your home, come back by the fire, come back. And this is really about, how can I call those fragments, those souls back, parts of my soul back home that got lost in my lifeline, got lost somewhere along the way because it did not feel safe in my body. And that's about, how can I feel those discomfort without, making myself wrong anymore, or making myself feel bad as a person, and allowing that full experience in my body vessel, so that that part that's fragmented can feel safe again, can feel that loving compassion that you're holding for yourself, and come in and reintegrate and go, yes. So it's really about making the body hospitable again. With critical inner thoughts, blaming and judging yourself, it doesn't feel that hospitable. Just probably like in the family home, my example is, my mum was very critical, and it used to feel like I was walking on ice or a knife blade, and if I put one step out of place, she would go off. It was very uncomfortable for me. So it wasn't that safe for me to ground and land in this space, because I was always on edge waiting for her to be triggered. So one of my journeys is, how do I land in my body and realize that my mum, that threat is no longer there, and therefore I can recall back that part that I sent away because it wasn't safe, to come back home into my body. Now, when we call the lost fragments back into our body, this is where we start to feel a sense of wholeness again, where we feel complete, like we're finding this divine union that we're all longing for deep down, especially if we're on this spiritual hunt to evolve and grow and expand into our fullness, or share our gifts or heart's desires with the world more freely. Another beautiful quote is, "The philosophical or intellectual understanding of pain is not enough. You must actually feel something properly. The only way to get to the heart of the matter is to actually experience it for yourself. But you do not have to create painful situations, they will occur naturally." So that comes from a great book down there, Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism. Now, that is really about, you don't have to go looking for these painful situations for them to arise. They are always going to be invited into your reality. If you're a woman or a man on this journey, you're going to be invited into this journey to look within through that tightness, through that pain, through that suffering, through that contraction. And what's important is not using that part of your brain to intellectually analyze and go in those circular thinking patterns, but actually feel it, because the only way out of that intellectual mind and tapping into the other side of the brain is through that emotional felt sense engagement with your body. So this beautiful slide is, it's an inside job, people. Every experience you feel is the gateway to personal power and freedom, and that is the opportunity waiting to bloom inside of you. So step one, how do we go about it? Step one is really about the desire. You need to have the desire to want it. So hands up in the room if you want it. This is like your commitment to you, not to me, not to the women in the space, but saying, yes, I actually want it. It's my heart's desire. This is going to be your anchor to keep you going when the times get dark, when they get rough, they get confronting. This is the desire that's going to keep you pulsing through in the face of defeat. Now, desire actually starts as a dream up there. It's not actually birthed in the physical form yet. So this is really what's good to keep in mind, is when you're dreaming in something, at first it starts out there in the etheric spiritual realm. And then as we slowly take steps and move towards it and anchor it in, it then transmutes alchemically into the physical form. And when we start to do this, this is when we start to override and clear those fears that we have inside, these excuses, the procrastination, any protective defensive strategies that want to come up and hijack that desire that we have. We can start to be present to it and shift it and clear it, and like windscreen wipers. The second step is to initiate. Initiation is like the action of beginning something, typically through ritual, seeking guidance and support, and disciplined practice. This is really where it's at. What action can you take in the next following days to tune into yourself, be present what is really going on? How can I be supported if I'm stuck? Because that's acknowledging that we're limited in our resource circle and we need to acquire more tools. Especially if our soul is fragmented and we're not quite sure how to navigate the reintegration process, actually seeking support from someone who's walked the path before you. Now, there's heaps of healers in Alice, there's heaps of resources on the coast, there's me. Tapping into these resources to help you navigate is going to ensure great success, but it's up to you to initiate. Making that commitment to yourself, that self-inquiry. Step 3 is the immersion. Like, how daring are you to fully immerse yourself into that swimming pool of emotions and felt sense, so that you're head under, that you're fully submersing your full experience? Or do you have one foot in and one foot out? I'm not ready to commit. Like, I am, in the past, a very avoidant person, believe it or not. It's very deceiving. I have tricked many people around this because I never wanted to fully step both feet into an experience, because I was always wanting to protect and reserve myself, always having like this back door, even in relationship. So what changed for me was when I was willing to commit and fully immerse myself in the experience and not run away and really meet myself, because through the body is the intimacy with ourselves, then we're going to really open and awaken to that full power, that full sense of pleasure. How willing am I really willing to show up in my physical body through sexual intimacy, for example, so that I am here experiencing my full orgastic experience, not thinking about doing the washing or blaming my partner or holding on to resentment from my mum 6 years ago. Those sorts of things. Now, the way to also move through this is engage in an activity fully, like drumming circles, dancing circles, chanting, singing, therapeutic support, whatever it is, fully immerse yourself into that experience and feel and move what is going on. And the gift at the end is really about learning how to integrate. So you're acquiring this new wisdom, this new energy, this new sense of self as you shift and dance and shake it out into your body system so that you now find a new level of cohesion inside. When there's a new level of cohesion, it means your whole body is communicating and you're able to hold a bigger container of experience so that you can have more power and more joy and more pleasure and more of the things that you actually desire. Now, the way through a bit the cohesion and the integration phase is really about your tri-brain and your body relationship to this. So this is my understanding of the instinct linked to the gut. So our primal animal instinct is very much linked with that inner subtle knowing or pull. And we've got the emotional aspect, which is around the heart of emotion, and our monkey brain, our limbic brain around social emotional engagement. And then we've got our rational part, which is our mind. And it's really about ending the inner war with these. So a big commitment to myself at the moment is how can I end the inner war so I can end the outer war? So ending that comparison, ending that fight with someone of needing to be right, end that fight of needing to judge that person for their choices in life, ending that fight. And it all starts within me. How willing am I able to end that inner fight between my heart, my mind, and my instinctual knowing and sit comfortably with myself so that I'm not projecting that out in the space anymore and that I hold a loving, compassionate frequency for myself and the world. So the first one is the instinct and the gut aspect of ourselves, and it is linked to the crocodile reptilian brain. And it seeks our most primal needs to get our needs met, to be fed, to be sheltered, to be safe, and to be secure. Now, the flip side of not being safe and secure is that we're going to fight, flight, or freeze, and it is linked to the felt sense. And this is all about the unseen aspect, and this is why it's one of the most hardest parts of us to actually be present to and connect with, because it's not seen, it's just felt, that tightening or that feeling, like that anxious feeling when you're tapping your leg against the floor or you're picking your finger, is like that anxious nervous state in your system telling you, I've got to move, something's got to happen. And it's searching for a completion of something. And if we don't honor the need for the completion and complete it through, say, our imagination or in physical real time, that pattern is still going to keep buffing up against the edges of our inner reality until we learn how to complete it. The second part is the emotion, the heart space, which is linked to our monkey brain and about social emotional engagement and connection. And it's really, we are humans and we connect through our emotionality. That's how we resonate. That's how we attune to another, through our felt sense. And we are monkeys in our predecessors. So it's really about how we thrive. I am renowned to being a solo journey flyer through life. I love to be really autonomous and independent, but it doesn't have to come at a sacrifice of not being interdependent. So interdependent meaning I'm still holding on to my individuality while still being a part of the greater whole and letting my sisters and brothers come in and support and nourish me to still go after that bigger dream that I have inside, rather than thinking I have to do it alone and be very stoic and rigid about it. Also, our heart is also known to be 15 times larger. So whatever our heart is doing, whether it's closed and blocked, is going to be communicated to the bigger world. So even now, just tuning into your heart space, just taking a few deep breaths in there and maybe tuning in to say, what am I noticing right now? Does it feel open? Does it feel closed? Does it feel numb? Does it feel protected? Does it need a hug? Does it need to be heard? Does it need to be felt in a certain way? And as you feel into your heart, just acknowledging what it is needing. Is it needing a warm cup of tea to soothe it? Just really tuning into some of those aspects. As I said, the body is 55% more the communication message that's happening. So our heart being also 15 times larger is the first thing people connect with when they enter our energetic field. And so what is our heart communicating about ourselves right now? I know for me in the past, I have had very rigid boundaries. So if I felt unsafe, like this huge like cement wall would come smashing down in front of me and I'd become really tight and I'm like, no, nothing's coming in. It's taken a lot of practice and a lot of cultivation to feel when that rigidity wants to come in, to just soften a little bit and relax and go, I'm safe, it's okay. What am I really wanting? And majority of the times, beyond my protective defensive mechanism, I'm actually really thirsty for heart-to-heart connection. And the beautiful rational mind, which tends to be a bit of a hijacker to the other two aspects of ourselves, it's where most of us sit comfortably. It's where we do our rational higher thinking, where we can tune into, a little bit of a greater alignment. It's beliefs, philosophy, and meaning that we attribute to life, a sense of purpose, and also our intellectual wisdom. Now, when we are having these aspects come up in our lives and we sit in our rational mind and we're struggling to connect with our heart and our gut space, one great practice that I love to do is giving them the rational mind some pause time and actually breathing and feeling into my heart and saying, what does my heart need? And then once I feel like I feel into that truth and get really clear and like almost like, oh, that's what my heart needs. I then go to my gut and put my hands on my gut and go, what is my gut telling me right now? What needs to happen that I may not be acknowledging? And stay present to that and present and keep feeling and asking until eventually this thing will drop in and go, oh, that's what I'm needing. And then when those two power centers connect with the third one, it's like this sense of cohesion drops into our inner reality where we're no longer at fight with ourselves and we're actually in greater alignment. So your body is actually the gift here. If you haven't tuned into that through this webinar. So staying present to the body sensation is the gateway really for you to access heightened states of pleasure, to access personal power and freedom, to also increase your sense of worth, to new levels of awareness. It also allows you to meet reality from a more neutral perspective and you're not feeling triggered or activated and blaming the outside world or using external stimuli or rationale to affirm your unhealthy reality inside. And therefore, you then become the master of yourself and the space. Now, I'll give an example for that is with myself when I start to, for the business, when I want to go step out in the world and I start drawing on people outside to validate my reality, like writing a blog, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should write this. Is it any good? And I start searching for like millions of people to give me affirmation inside where really it's my self-worth wanting to be acknowledged and approved of by myself. I don't need approval outside to write a blog. It can be as hairy and as ugly and as vivacious or descriptive or intellectual as I choose. It doesn't matter about what anyone else. I don't need their approval. I don't need their validation. It's going to pick some people that love me and some people that hate me. But what is it up for me is to hold that experience inside and love it and be with it. And even though it wants to override me moving forward and writing a blog, I'm going to hold it and say, even though you're present there, I'm still going to write it, regardless of all the thoughts that want to come up and challenge me not to. And with the feeling of that discomfort inside, I'm still going to pursue it and still hold both of those experiences inside, so that when I meet that end goal that my heart is really desiring, I then get a new sense of space of going, oh, that wasn't so bad. So then it like back to the original slides of when there's only a little bit of that experience inside, I'm then expanding my circle to allow more experience in, so that eventually when I write my blogs and my book, I'm not even going to blink. It's just going to come pouring out because I have a bigger container to hold that experience. So the only way out is through. Now, there is an amazing Alanis Morissette song, if you want to Google or YouTube it in the next coming days, and she really captures the essence of that the body is the way. And as human, we are constantly invited. We are a natural, organic organism that's always searching for the more. That is how we are programmed to evolve and grow. Before, when we were bacteria, we still wanted to grow and evolve. That's how we became humans on Earth. The only thing we get caught up in through our rational mind is the how. And the how is through the heart and the gut, and being present to the felt sense of what needs to be complete or be felt and seen, moved through our bodies, so that then we are more open, we have more space inside to actually receive the gifts, the pleasure, the power, and the freedom. So as you know, it's really important to stay connected to your community and build it. So if you're not yet, jump in and connect with me in those avenues. I also offer one-on-one private coaching, and it's a very unique somatic approach where I help you clear any block, any dysregulation, any doubt, any worth issues that are sitting inside your body that's waiting to be completed. Is one of my gifts. And workshops. So in Alice Springs and Mullumbimby and Toowoomba, I'm running the Heart of Confidence in the next few months. And level 3, the Pathway to Freedom, is coming soon to Alice Springs, and it is very juicy, ladies. I'm starting to create content today, and I'm so excited. It's going to, woohoo, it's going to be very deep, very relational, and very empowering for any woman that shows up in that space. Okay, so that's the end of the webinar. So I'm going to stop it, and then we're going to move to Skype for the women who are going to continue. Thanks for being present, guys. See you later. Bye.